Hey folks, Lisa here with what will be the first in at least 16 Tarot PSAs on the coronavirus. You remember the whole concept of a PSA? Does that just date me? This whole idea of a public service announcement. You hear them on the radio or see them on broadcast television. Maybe this is just a United States thing. I don't know. But PSAs, not prostate-specific antigen values. That's another kind of PSA. But the idea of a public service announcement? Yeah. So here's the thing. And I'm leaning on something I heard at the Northwest Tarot Symposium this past weekend from the fabulous Liz Worth, who's this tarot reader and teacher and all-around spiritual badass based in Toronto. She was doing a talk on spiritual leadership, basically ethics and integrity within the profession of tarot reading. And she said, like it or not, if you're picking up the cards, if you're using them to read, you are a spiritual leader. You may not think of yourself as an adept or as someone who's out there sharing what you are discovering with others, but you are a spiritual leader. There's something about being a seeker, no matter what kind of spiritual tradition you're following. There's something about being a seeker that seems to go hand in hand with wanting to bring others into the light as well. And I think it's because the more we seek, the more we're on this path, whatever this path is, I'll just leave it vague. The more we seek, the more we realize how freaking interconnected we are. How freaking interconnected we are. That we all must rise together or sink together, depending on your perspective, because we're all in the freaking same boat. We're all in the same huge ocean. So being a seeker, no matter how introverted or shy or non-self-compassionate you are, no matter how hard a time you give yourself about what you don't know or what you can't do, being a seeker means you are a leader, especially in troubled times, which are us. Troubled times are us, right? So, the coronavirus. In these tarot PSAs, what I want to be able to talk about is, as insights arise for me, I want to talk about how the tarot can help us, teach us to be more resilient and to really take up our role as leaders, to help bring this world into more light. If not, those of us who are striving for compassion and integrity and justice and peace and abundance and freedom from fear and falling in love with life. If not us, who? So, the coronavirus. Here's today's insight. And as I said, I want to do 16 of these. Why 16? Because it's the number of the tower. So I was thinking I would do a tarot PSA on the coronavirus and make 16 of them and begin each one or center each one on a card, beginning with the tower. Right, and I'm using the is it called the deluxe format, the large version of the AGM Crackleback, the premium, based on the Pam A, the 1910 version of the Rider-Waite Smith deck. So this is AGM sort of scanned master images. It's a digital printing process, but it's taken from a Pam A deck. And it's a really, really lovely, other than the calligraphy, it's got the other 4 C's of quality, of tarot quality: color, clarity, cardstock, and no copyright. Anyway, the Pam A in the AGM version. So the tower. Number 16, that's 6. One of the ways to think about the tower. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about the tower in my 30 days of the tower from my tarot month last June. But one of the ways to think about the tower is to think about the 6, and to remember that the 6, numerologically, building on sort of Kabbalistic thinking and alchemical thinking, is to take the 6 of the 6-pointed star, what we commonly talk about as the Star of David, which superimposes 2 triangles, the upward-facing triangle of fire and the downward-facing triangle of water, right? So you can think about the tower as fire meets water. Fire meets the ocean, meets water. And the kind of balance and harmony that 6s always represent, that sort of, in a Kabbalistic world, Tiferet, the sort of beauty and balance and perfection of these, 2 triangles coming together, this mirroring and symmetry, 3 and 3, right? So the tower, fire meeting water. Here's the thing about the coronavirus, folks. If we think about the way fire is, the suit of fire wands, the way in which fire is that kind of rumbling in our gut, that heat, that responsive energy where we're like, I want to respond to the world. I want to bring my strength into the world. I want to take all of that fiery, willful energy in response to the world, right? Fire as the element of the night, the element of the quest, the element of response. Now, we sometimes think of compassion as a soft virtue, but compassion is born of fire, of that rumbling, burning in the gut that says, I need to do something. But the tower and the coronavirus, the way it's manifesting right now for most places in the world, not the places that are being ravaged with hundreds upon hundreds of active cases, not China, but for most of the world, the coronavirus now is all about that fire meeting water. And what is water? Water are the deeps of the cups. It's not just emotionality, but it's the whole world of soul, of the imagination, of archetype, that whole world of intuition, of what we know without knowing in our heads, what we know because it's intuitively felt in archetype, in metaphor, that level of meaning, not making sense of, not understanding, but that level of resonance where we resonate with the world. That's the world of water. So here's the thing. We have this burning need to act. And it's meeting this huge, vast, dark, and murky pool of our imagination. We don't know what we're dealing with. So this impulse to act, meeting this huge, bottomless almost world of imagination, right? Why is the tower so devastating? It's devastating because our desire to respond is meeting an infinite pool of not knowing, where anything could be true, So this is recipe for huge anxiety. This is recipe for panic. This is recipe for, let me go to Costco and buy all the freaking toilet paper that I can load onto my cart, which is what's happened in parts of the United States and elsewhere in the world. So thinking about coronavirus in these terms, suggests recognizing the anxiety that happens when the burning need to act meets a bottomless capacity to imagine. Nothing needs to be done right now in this place of anxiety and turmoil. I don't mean don't wash your hands. I don't mean don't try to take care of yourself or your family. I just mean recognize that the impulse to respond is exceeding our capacity to understand right now. And we're being pulled by fire and water. So what do? In those times, we try to find some level ground. We try to make our way to the ground, to find what is solid, to find the earth. So May we all find ways to feel the ground under our feet, feel the stability of our lives, lean into what we actually do understand and know, and recognize the roiling, bottomless depths of our water. I got cut off there by a phone call. So may we all find ways to settle into what we know to be solid ground. Our own bodies, our sense of the weight of our feet on the ground, if we're sitting down, the sense of our hands in our laps or our rump on the chair. May we settle into what we know. May we lean into the solidity and stability of the earth, the solidity and stability of our relationships. So finding a way back to the ground, recognizing anxiety for what it is, fire meeting water. This Tarot PSA has been brought to you by Mindful Tarot. Thank you so much for your practice.